In the news tonight, PM commends measures taken by villages. Ignore vaccine misinformation, warns religious leaders. And Ministry of Health pushes on despite challenges.
From the studios of FBC Suba, Edwin Nunn.
Ulunaka, Fiji. Prime Minister Voreqe Bainimarama is calling on Itoke villages to maintain strict COVID-19 lockdown protocols as the fight against COVID-19 continues. Speaking during the Radio Fiji One Nanonda Prime Minister program, Bainimarama said it's crucial for villages to work with the government in these trying times. Sainia Nimboila reports the Prime Minister also highlighted the need for togetherness now more than ever.
Living in villages during difficult times like this, relevant measures must be implemented to ensure the villages remain safe.
I understand the need of people to go and visit their families, their friends, those that want to go to their homes. However, lockdown of certain places remains. We should understand why we have all these protocols in place. We have the killer virus in our communities and we should be more vigilant.
Bainimarama says villages and communities will only be safe if all COVID-19 restrictions and protocols, such as social gatherings, especially during funerals, are observed.
It's crucial for us to know the significance of having only 10 people in a funeral. It's for our safety. Places where the funerals are held should be spacious enough. We can celebrate the lives of our beloved ones. After the pandemic, this is to ensure that we are safe from the virus.
He says if isolation and quarantine facilities are set up in Itoke communities, the government will need support from villages.
The government is providing food in all isolation centers and quarantine facilities. In villages, this is also a good time to work together. Or Solesolewaki, this is a good time for villages to work with the government.
The government, through the Itoke Affairs Ministry, has provided COVID-19 response kits to villages to help keep their border monitoring teams equipped during this pandemic. Sainia Nimboila, FBC News.
Leaders of the Methodist Church of Fiji are urging Fijians to disregard vaccine misinformation. This was the message from the president of the Methodist Church of Fiji, Reverend Ili Vunisuai, after he got his first jab earlier today. Jeshulal reports.
The Methodist Church says misinformation on the vaccine should be ignored by every Fijian.
Encourage those who are caught up by the social media and misinformation that is flying around. Of course, there will only some risk, but I think positive side of things is more than the negative side.
Other church ministers and lay preachers across the different Methodist church divisions have been encouraged to get vaccinated.
I urge the community, especially the Methodist Church in Fiji, there's nothing to fear. Go ahead. See vaccination as your social obligation and social responsibility towards the welfare of our nation.
And there's no reason whatsoever to be scared about it. We must be very appreciative for this vaccination, for the safety of our community.
These religious leaders have urged Fijians to come forward and get vaccinated to be safe against the virus. Jeshulal, FBC News.
Despite certain health facilities being affected by COVID-19, officials are working around the clock to provide timely services. 3 main hospitals in Viti Levu had been compromised, with the Colonial War Memorial Hospital currently a full-time COVID care facility, while the Nandi and Lotoka hospitals were also affected. Kritika Kumar reports.
Some of the other small health centers around the country were also affected. However, this did not slow the COVID-19 response effort.
When a health facility is compromised or when a staff develops COVID-19 symptoms or is exposed. But we're keeping a daily watch on it.
Dr. Tundravu confirms that the healthcare system still has enough capability to counter COVID-19.
So at the moment, we are comfortable with what we are seeing. We are able to respond. And our team have been able to respond to the situation.
Permanent Secretary for Health Dr. James Fong says They are strategizing and planning to ensure services are not interrupted.
We may have to start looking at making sure that we are in a good place to catch the sick, especially those who get very sick.
The Chief Medical Advisor also confirms there are enough resources to allow for the Ministry of Health to detect and care for COVID patients. The majority of current active cases are from the Lamino-Sori containment area. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
The Fiji Police Force is stretching its resources on the ground to meet increasing responsibilities. Case numbers are increasing daily and police officers are now required to watch positive cases in home isolation. They also man checkpoints, monitor communities in lockdown, help in contact tracing and run patrols during curfew. Apart from this, the police force is continuing its normal operations 24 hours a day. Acting Police Commissioner Rusiate Tundavu says the force is mindful of its capabilities.
We are now guarding some of the positive cases that have been directed for home isolations. We are trying our best, given the manpower that we have, to guard all these home isolation cases. Having said that, we are digging deep into our manpower.
Up ahead, domestic travel starts this week and cane farmers receive assistance. Welcome back. The University of the South Pacific is punching above its weight against some of the biggest institutions around the world. This comes as USP has been ranked 11th in crisis management among the top 100 universities in the World Universities Real Impact ranking system. The achievement was officially cited in a virtual conference by Professor Emeritus of Seoul National University and the founding director of WURI ranking this morning. WURI is the latest university ranking system established in 2020 and was developed by the organizing committee of the second conference of the Hanseatic League of Universities. USP entered in the category of crisis management and provided details of how it responded to COVID-19 in 2020, where the Fiji campus in particular was under pressure to ensure students and staff were protected as the pandemic ravaged the world. Shipping and bus operators prioritize safety over business, with movement of Fijians from non-containment to containment zones starting this week. Maritime Safety Authority of Fiji says they are leaving no stone unturned and will come down hard on operators breaching safety measures. Christiana Uluwai reports.
Although domestic traveling is good for business, people's safety is a priority for ground shipping.
Discouraging people of traveling, they should not be traveling. Those people in the outer island, they're in heaven at the moment. Why do they want to come to hell?
Traveling on land can be challenging because buses are not moving from across the borders.
Buses are running up to that point, and from there, if you have pass or whatever the requirement is, you can take and go across and catch another bus or something and go on the other side.
Meanwhile, more than 8,000 Fijians have registered to travel during this window of travel. Fijians are warned that if any person or operator who directly or indirectly refuses or neglects to comply with the procedures in place commits an offence and is liable to a fine of up to $10,000 or imprisonment or both under the Public Health Act 1935. Christiana Uluwai, FBC News.
With some mixture of excitement and nervousness, some barber shops in the capital city have reopened and are only running through appointments. These barber shops have been approved to operate after more than 2 months of closure. Apanisa Wangai Randovu reports Supercut in Suva has been busy since it resumed operations yesterday.
Normally, Supercuts are SAP's walk-ins, but with new health precautions, clients are now required to make appointments.
Yeah, if you need haircut, you have to make your appointments before you come here. And then you have to put on your mask on, and then your KFG app should be on. And then we allow customers to be in.
Since its closure 2 months ago, Abdul has to dig into his savings to continue supporting his family.
It was quite a little bit hard for me, but then there were some families who came and supported us, and our boss too, he supported us.
Most clients are relieved to finally get haircuts for the first time in over 2 months.
I've been at home for around 3 months with no haircut. So it's been quite a good feeling today to come back to the barber shop and have a good haircut. I feel a bit light on the head.
I had to call in earlier and book a time that was available. So I managed to get this time and I'm quite happy with what I've seen so far.
These barbershops have been given strict protocols to follow in order to operate, as it is considered a high-risk business. Apenisong Rendobu, FBC News.
5,000 cane farmers in Ba who've been affected by COVID-19 will be assisted over the next few days. The Rarawai Penang Cane Producers Association has set aside $150,000 for the project. Felipe Nekaso has more.
This is the start of the distribution, which will also include training and awareness of the COVID-19 protocols.
The assistance program is from Ba, Tawa and Reki-Reki, which will be started with this distribution of set of cane knives, file and hand gloves.
The association under Fair Trade International is able to do the distribution through the premium funds provided by Tate & Lyle and KitKat Nestle. They're also hoping to team up with other organizations in order to provide further technical assistance in the Western Cane Belt areas.
We can say that 80% of the economy that is being generated in the Ba town has been totally because of the sugarcane industry. So out of those 5,000 families that has been targeted for this project, we can say that there is about 15,000 members in the public that is relying on this assistance.
With crushing to begin in 2 weeks' time for the Ba mill, the donation to farmers will be of great assistance as majority are in need.
I'm grateful for the assistance given today, and the equipments that are given will definitely boost our harvesting this season.
The distribution will run over the next few weeks. Felipe Nekaso, FBC News.
Now, with so much talk about COVID-19, many of us have forgotten tomorrow morning sees the start of Euro 2020. Now we have, it will air live on FBC Sports on the Walesi platform. We have Talay Matairakula join us live to explain what's in store.
10 a.m. Italy faces Turkey in the opening match, and this will be a relief for those of us, for at least football fans around the country. Now, this is because we haven't had any local sports since April, and this craving for live sports action will be somewhat be fulfilled for football fans and for those of us that love sports. We will bring you the entire tournament live on free-to-air, and this will be on FBC Sports on the Walesi platform. And remember, we also give you your weekly live NRL action. More on the Euro 2020 in sports. Edwin.
Nakatale. Now, coming up in world news, US President makes first foreign visit. And later in sports, Nakarawa fails medical test.
Film Fiji, through its famous Survivor series over the past 5 months, contributed an estimated $22 million to Fiji's economy. Chief Executive Ramiro Tenorio says this is a good indication that our film industry is striving to retain viability and productivity post-COVID period. Details with Josiah Nanunga.
It's a dreadful time for the film industry with the second wave of the pandemic in our midst. But this will not let our guard down that the magic of production and the big screen isn't going to vanish.
Although we have tremendous interest of productions that would like to come during 2021, it's at this point we have to review case by case, and particularly given the outbreak situation.
Perform this Meke.
The Survivor, which was shot in the Mana and other islands in the Mamanudas, have also been a source of employment for locals.
Production over the period of time have employed approximately 406 locals over this 5-month period. Some of these locals range from experts in the production field in Fiji. Others range from villages and other communities within the Mamanuca Islands.
We also like to thank all the Fijian crews camera departments, in our department, in health and security and transport. It's thanks to them that we can have aspire to have a thriving audiovisual industry in Fiji.
Film Fiji is in constant contact with the government and overseas film producers in an effort to boost the productivity of the industry once the border restrictions are lifted. Jose Yenemuga, FBC News.
Yeah, the local exchange rates are set early this morning. The Fiji dollar changed overnight as it dropped against our two major trading partners, the Aussie and Kiwi dollars, including the Japanese yen. Our Sangamoli gained versus all other currencies we cover. Commodities market was on the rise today. Crude oil rose a few dollars at $70 a barrel. Gold rose to close at 1,901 cents per ounce, and silver was up at 28.11 per ounce. And we now join Sinifa from HFC Bank to give us the latest figures from the money market.
Good evening. Investors are not freaking out over a spike in U.S. inflation in the past 2 months. Data released early morning showed that the U.S. Consumer Price Index increased 0.6% in May after surging 0.8% in April. This was the largest gain since June 2009. In the 12 months through May, U.S. CPI accelerated 5%. That was the biggest year-on-year increase since August 2008 and followed a 4.2% rise in April. Markets' lack of reaction to this release is perhaps showing confidence that the Federal Reserve is well handling the rebound in economic growth. Also this morning, the European Central Bank held the headline Eurozone interest rate at 0% and kept its deposit rate for banks at negative 0.5%. The ECB also presented an update to the economic outlook in the Eurozone. The central bank revised its GDP expectation upwards to a rate of 4.6% for 2021 and 4.7% for 2022, with forecasts for annual inflation to reach 1.9% this year and 1.5% in the next year. Next week is again a packed economic calendar for the traders, but for now, that's all from your HFC Bank, Vinaka.
The Fiji Roads Authority, through its scheduled road repair this year, will ensure the resurface of 600 kilometers of road across the country. Acting Chief Executive Kamal Prasad says this will be executed by several local and international contractors, especially in the urban and suburban areas. Through the program, maintenance work will be carried out on 200 kilometers of road along the King and Queens Road, Valley Road, Trans-Insula Road, Wainikoru Road, and Nambawalu Road. The authority adds that 10 major bridge projects are currently in progress around Viti Levu. Prasad is urging the public to take notice and to adhere to the temporary traffic management implemented in their local area as they work towards improving the level of service and safety for road users across around the country. Just before we wrap up in business, last night we aired a logo of the Deluxe Footwear Pte Limited instead of the Deluxe the #1 Limited. We apologize for any inconvenience caused. And that is the latest from my end, but coming up after the break, media personnel sacrificed to keep Fiji informed. Stay with us.
Welcome back. The Fijian government and the United Kingdom, in collaboration with the Pacific Island Forum, hosted a dialogue focused on Pacific-centric solutions to improving access to climate finance. Attorney General Aya Syed Qayyum, during the virtual Pacific Small Island Developing States Access to Finance Dialogue, highlighted the economic and social ramifications of protracted nature of COVID-19. Syed Qayyum also called on development partners to adopt access modalities to finance that is not at odds with the current recovery and development financing needs of PSEDs. He says there is an urgent need for greater innovation, flexibility and responsiveness from bilateral and multilateral partners to better respond to the financing needs of SIDS. Staying home is the safest option during this pandemic, but members of the media are sacrificing this necessity in order to keep the public informed of the crisis. As authorities work together to help contain the spread of the virus, the media is also working tirelessly to ensure misinformation is verified and credible news is disseminated to the people now more than ever. Lina Rees reports.
With no early end in sight as Fiji works to contain the spread of this deadly virus, and despite being tired and weighed down mentally, members of the media are being encouraged to keep their morale high.
So we know that it's going to be a long haul, and the constant reassurance is what media teams are discussing with each other right now, keeping each other's spirits high, because we need to be assisting each other in fighting COVID-19.
The Fijian Media Circle has been working overtime just to get the coverage out to Fiji and the world.
Because waiting to 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. for the news is taking its toll. And doing that late at night, night after night, is exhausting.
Members of the media know that despite all the challenges and criticism, the job they chose is a service to the public.
Follow the protocol that is placed by the Ministry of Health, and especially during this time, we should all support each other.
Even though I was away from home and it was a challenge for me, but it was also a learning ground for me.
It's been very, very hard, especially when you're still learning the ropes and something like this happened, like the outbreak.
I'm so fortunate to be a sports reporter and to learn new things every day, and also to help share the information to the people of Fiji.
For the past few months, I've been doing some stories based on, counseling and psychological support among frontliners. And while writing the content of the story, I then realized these are the very things that we journalists, that we reporters are also battling on a daily basis.
There is nothing but sacrifice needed for these bunch of media personnel who have been doing the hard yards for over a month now.
It may be like an old record and permanently on replay mode, but it has to be done. So we're reminding people every week.
Some of these guys haven't gone home for over a month now. They've been staying away from home, and that is called respect, because they are sacrificing, as any true journalist would do, to ensure that Fiji and the world stay connected.
The Fiji Media Association is encouraging the media to stay the course, and it is also urging authorities to look at improving communication aspects so to improve services to people during this time. Lina Rees, FBC News.
The Ministry of Commerce says it's received complaints from the public about the reopening of businesses. Minister Fayaz Khoya has told FBC News that people are worried about the possibility of spreading COVID-19. However, he has assured that COVID-safe measures required of businesses are of the highest standard. He adds they are also in close consultations with the Ministry of Health to ensure there is no risk to the public.
I need to say this, we've all experienced some opposition from the public, but most of which are really safety concerns with business operating. But to address this, the ministry actually continues to work closely with our health professionals, our Ministry for Health, and the discipline forces to actually ensure that health and safety remains paramount at all times.
National Sevens head coach Gareth Baber believes Fiji's style of rugby gives them an edge over New Zealand and Australia. While the two teams are ahead of Fiji with preparations having played in the Trans-Tasman Series 2 weeks ago, the national side has also had its fair share of tests through local competitions. Tale Matarakula reports.
Teams have different qualities, but they also have different weaknesses as well. And that's what we're going to focus on, is ensuring that we don't get too carried away with the fact that they've played before. And
Baber says the national side is focusing on backing their training.
it's going to be tough. They will have been battle hardened by playing against each other. They will know what the level is again. But equally, they play very similarly to each other, and they wouldn't have had exposure to how we play.
The team and other athletes have been commended for their dedication to fulfilling their Olympic dream.
I would like to acknowledge, the resilience and dedication of these athletes who have been challenged a lot ever since we've had the pandemic.
Former St. Joseph Secondary School sprinter Luisa Tumbailangi could be on her way to becoming the first Fijian-born Black Ferns Sevens player. The 19-year-old who excelled at athletics in Fiji never imagined herself playing alongside some of the best women's sevens players in the world, but has recently been turning heads in New Zealand rugby. Caroline Itabi reports.
Always tough, and there's no easy way in women's rugby nowadays, and that.
Fiji will always be hard for me, but I am.
Flying Fijians lock Leone Nakarawa will no longer be moving to Ulster Rugby Club next season after failing his medical. Although the Kaiviti Silktails are 2 places ahead of the Windsor Wolves on the Ron Massey Cup ladder, they aren't letting their guard down. Winning their match against the Wolves tomorrow will keep them in contention for a playoff berth. Venina Rakautonga reports.
Come with a really good mentality, switched on, and making this team really work for both their yards and all their tries. That'll put us in good stead for the game because we've definitely got points in us. As I said, it's just going to come down to defence.
Fullback Chili Vedevedes says being named into this week's team is an honor and he understands the responsibilities that lies ahead.
A day out from the start of Euro 2020, and UEFA has ordered Ukraine to make changes to its football jersey. Not for anything on the outside of the shirt, but for a few words on the inside. Cornhole makes our quirky sport of the day. A community game, now a televised professional sport, sees players tossing a bag full of corn into a hole. That's it from sports tonight. Coming up in Weird and Wonderful, Jala the orangutan makes his journey back into the wild. This and more after the break.
A deep low-pressure system to the far southeast of Fiji is expected to generate and direct damaging heavy southeasterly swells over parts of the Fiji waters. Clear blue skies were the highlight of the Western Division today. Eastwards from Pacific Harbour to Suva, mostly fine conditions with clear skies as well. Similar conditions were experienced in the Northern Division. At sea, southeasterly winds 15 to 20 knots, increasing up to 25 knots from later tonight. High tide is at 7:42, was at 7:42 tonight, with the next low tide at 1:25 a.m. Sunrise will be at 6:34. For tomorrow, mainly fine over most places, cool at night. The same can be expected for Sunday. And on to the world of the weird and the wonderful. His name is Chala, and he's being released back into the wild. And in Fijian Pulse, we ask, what's your favorite fast food chain during the pandemic?
When we feel hungry, yes, we reach to what's called takeaways because we need food too, okay?
No, I don't buy fast food. Most of the time we cook our food at home.
I'm not go to any fast food restaurant. I'm just making it home. Make my own food, everything at home, day and night.
And recapping our main stories, Prime Minister commends measures taken by villagers, ignore vaccine misinformation, warn religious leaders, and Ministry of Health pushes on despite challenges. For these stories and others, tune into our sister radio station, Gold FM. To our poll question, this week we are asking, should those spreading misinformation about the vaccine be charged? Visit our FBC News website to answer. You can also send us newsworthy pictures and videos. Email fbcnews@fbc.com.fj or share it with us via our various social media accounts. You can also download our FBC app to keep updated with the very latest in news and sports and listen to our 6 radio stations live. That's your news this evening. I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe. Modemata.